give up, don't give in to the games they're playing. Time to change, start today. What is the point of this life we're living? Before you know it, you'll be dying or dead. It's your life, your free time, and your body. Time to fight, don't delay. You're not a worthless commodity. You gotta stand up for your right to be free. I wake up at 5 in the morning. I trudge out to a car that's warming. Drive to a job that's boring. Keeps me so fulfilled. I come home at 6 Eastern Standard. I prepare and eat my dinner. I turn on the television, numb by repetition. You're worth so much more than your hourly wage. Unfulfilled, disengaged. Is this the life you want to be living as a cog in a monstrous machine? Quit your job, go all out. Don't pay your rent, do your best, don't cave in. Takes so much goddamn time and energy. You'll never be rich in this oligarchy. I wake up at 5 in the morning for some asshole who's snoring. Price of everything is soaring. When will I get ahead? One accident away from collapse. I try my goddamn best not to relapse. Is this what humans were born to do? Your life belongs to you. Don't give up, don't give in. You have a life worth living. Get some rest, just sleep in. Buy some seeds, prep the ground, plant a garden. You gotta do what you can to be free. Can't make up time without the time you give them. Your life is yours, not theirs. Make music, make art, do what you need to do. Pursue life's proper pursuits. Pursue life's proper pursuits. Pursue life's proper pursuits. Pursue life's proper pursuits.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Ska Talk with Skagazine. My name is Jess. I am here with my co-host Eric.
Hey everybody, how's
Just
it
the two of
going?
us today. We are here with almost a full band, the Write-Ups out of Flint, Michigan. Welcome.
Does everyone want to take just a moment and say who they are and a little bit about their musical background and their personal background? Kind of your game show introduction to yourself.
Well, sure, I could start. So I'm Danny. I have been a promoter here in Flint for many years, since the early 2000s. Been heavily involved in the Flint music scene. And I honestly haven't been in a band in probably about 20 years, I want to say. Many years ago, I was in a bubblegum, pop punk band, very maybe Ramones core, as you could describe it.
It's cool.
And all of us have had some background in music in some capacity and playing in the Flint scene. Minus Dallas being the one who's not originally from Genesee County. But the Write-Ups are a fairly new project. It's really only been active for a few years now, and we're just happy to be here, happy to be having fun and playing some music together.
I'm Tom. I play bass. I've always I've been playing music for a really long time. Usually in garage bands, but definitely ska bass is the absolute funnest to play, and also ska shows are the funnest shows to play by far.
Awesome.
I would agree they're the funnest to attend as well.
I'm gonna also agree with you on that one, Jess.
Yeah, so I'm Dick. I'm the lone horn player in the band. I've been playing trumpet since 4th grade. I learned trombone in 11th grade. In the end of 12th grade, a friend of mine was like, "You play trombone, right? You want to be in a ska band with me?" And I was like, "Sure, what's ska?" I've always been a joiner. Dallas says I'm pro stuff. So yeah, I had been in marching band, jazz band. Figured I'd never be in a cool band. But when it was this friend from Scouts, he asked me to join a ska band, and his band teacher had been in Stamped out of Saginaw. and so he's like riding the third wave, just the coattails of the third wave. And so he started a band, and I was in that band for probably 15 years ish, depending on if you think the band ever really broke up or not. And kind of on the heels of that, Danny reached out to me and was like, "Hey, let's keep playing ska." So I'm really excited. It's the main genre that has made up my musical life as a musician, and so it's really fun to be able to keep playing my horn.
Awesome.
Cool. Hey, greetings. I'm Dallas. I play guitar and sing the highs. I sing the highs and diddle the highs, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, played in a lot of punk bands, ska bands, or hardcore bands over the years. I moved around a lot, but I hadn't been in a band in a few years before the write-ups. Last band I was in Hawaii. I was in a hardcore band I sang in called Dracula Musical. But yeah, but back in Michigan, I just played the 72 Dolphins, played with One for the Books for a few shows, played in the Denslow Cup. There's a few, bands that had played around that, you may have encountered at some point, Eric, but moved back to Michigan in 2021, and it was largely conditional. I was living in Hawaii, and I was like, "Hey, Dan, if I go to U of M Flint, could I live in your house for cheap?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Can I put a gym in the garage?" He's like, "Yup." I'm like, can I play drums?" He was like, "Yeah, you can jam at 4 in the morning. I have neighbors over in Flint, dude. It's like vacant lots next to me." So I moved back there, and we decided to start a punk band. And then it turned into a ska band one time, so we just fucking rolled with it 4 years later or whatever.
It was really just because Ryan came over because he's like, "Hey, you know any Dallas? You know any drummers?" I was like, "Yeah, my buddy Ryan is a fantastic drummer. I don't think he's actively playing with anyone right now." So he came over, we jammed, and then he was just kind of immediately playing kind of a dancey beat. He's really good at dancing beats, and then it was like, "Oh shit!" So I just matched it with some upstrokes, and we kind of like just accidentally started as a ska band. It was like, "Oh man, this is kind of fun." Like, shit, did we just start a ska band? Is that? And I was like, "Oh, ska's still fun. Like there's a lot of ska bands really active right now. Ska's having a moment. Like why not? Let's do this."
5 minutes before that, we thought we were starting a hardcore band or like a beard punk band, and it just turned into minor key ska real quick. And we just fucking rolled with it. Yeah.
It was either that or becoming like another Lifetime rip-off band. So which also would have been tight,
Yeah, I was gonna say nothing against that.
Yeah, keep an eye out for our future project called the Right Downs.
Right now.
Maybe Lifetime style melodic hardcore.
We look forward to that one. Maybe we'll have you guys back on when you do that. So true story, because I can see that two of you guys have a cool background going with the road behind you. So two of you are on the road right now. Yep. Hey, what's up?
And Dave Kurtzkester.
Oh my gosh, hey Dave.
What up, Dave? Dave was on our podcast once.
I have an Edwin.
Ooh, and an Edwin.
And a Jack Gribble. And a Jose.
Hello.
Hey!
I almost took this one from the road also. Not as exciting as your stories. I'm helping a friend move right now. So I'm not on the road with like bands right now, but I was like, no, I can't do it from the road. And so you guys showed me up. So where is everybody right now? Like literally, what are you guys up to?
We are on our way to Champaign, Urbana for the first show of the tour. I'm basically on this tour. I'm a videographer and a driver with Make War, who, if you're not familiar with, Fat Records band, kind of melodic punk rock. And so we're doing a run with Teenage Bottle Rocket and Nest. So tonight is the first night of the tour without the rest of the package, and we're going to join up with them in Colorado Springs here in a few days. So currently in Ohio, heading towards Indiana.
I'm in Allen Park, if anyone cares.
Nice.
I'm in my office in Flint.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm also home in Flint.
I'm home in
Dallas.
Philly. Where are you at, Dallas?
Yeah.
First off, Allen Park is the home of the Detroit Lions, like headquarters. So you should be very proud of that, Eric. Secondly, I'm in Jupiter, Florida. I'm on tour with Mustard Plug and the Pie Chasers and Flying Raccoon Soup. We are heading to Miami Beach to play at the Miami Beach Band Shell. So I'm gonna go for a fucking dip for sure.
Nice.
I think Dallas wins this game.
Yeah, it was snowing in Michigan yesterday, just so you know, Dallas. Did so have you gone to the Masquerade already? Have you guys done that show already on this one, or is it coming up?
Yeah, Masquerade was our first show on Wednesday. It's just a 5-day run, so we're in Atlanta first, and then 4 days in Florida. So it's the fourth one right now.
Masquerade is one of my favorite little venues because it's literally like a little village of venues.
It's Masquerade's awesome. Were you all in Purgatory? What space?
We were in what room were we in? Hey, what hell?
Hell,
We were in hell. We were in hell. But then there
I
was
think I
like
saw
a
mustard plug
hardcore
in
show.
hell there.
There was a hardcore show next door, and then there's like a goth synth band like playing the venue next to that. So it was a pretty cool fucking night.
Dude, Masquerade's great, and for those who don't know or never been to Atlanta, basically it's split up into 3 levels. There's heaven, hell, and purgatory, and they're all just basically different size rooms. But it's fun. Downtown Atlanta is kind of like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. There's a place called the Underground that's like a block away too. That's really rad. We do art and other things. Really, basically like paid artists to make things there. So Atlanta rules. Big fan.
So recently, you guys here in Michigan played a Bernie Sanders rally. How did that come about?
So our friend Scotty Bell, who's a promoter in Lansing, who we've known for many years through the Michigan punk scene. He also tour manages the Menzingers, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you know of any bands that would be interested in opening the Bernie Sanders rally?" And I thought about it for a minute, and I asked the guys in our group chat, I was like, "Hey, what do you guys think about potentially opening for Bernie Sanders?" And everyone was just like, hell yeah." And so I got back to him and I was like, well, yeah, how about the write-ups? The write-ups want to play the Bernie Sanders rally. So Scotty made the connection. One of the Bernie staffers is from Vermont and grew up in the Burlington DIY scene. And so he also actually turns out used to play in Lemuria. So that's sort of the connection then why you often see a lot of punk bands opening for Bernie because he sort of like curates it a little bit. And so it just happened by chance and we were available. It was definitely the weirdest show that we played yet. So it was at like 9 a.m. and we were all just stone-faced sober and playing in front of a bunch of union members of UAW.
They liked us, especially for the time of day. People were like, "Yeah, this is sweet," and people like yelling back, like, "Yeah, get them, you tell them."
It was fun. It was a cool show. Like it was like just strange out of context. It's what we're used to. Not a dingy dive club, but a union hall is certainly something that felt appropriate for all of us, given our ties and connection in the Flint community to UAW. So it was cool. It was a great opportunity.
It was surprise ska. It was the best case of surprise ska that there's ever been. Because we were behind a garage door. So like it was 9 o'clock in the morning. People were just going in for a rally. And then all of a sudden the door opens and we start playing. And there's a ska band that nobody knew about. Surprise ska.
That is awesome. And so you played for Bernie Sanders. I was thinking about, and you see this on a lot of bands' social media pages where they have a post or something, and someone eventually always makes the comment of, politics and ska or politics and music don't go together. Just play your music kind of thing. How would you? Yep, exactly. Dallas shaking his head no because he is correct. But what do you guys think about that theory?
Get away, Dick.
Thumbs down.
Yeah, Danny, go for it.
Go for it, Dan.
Well, yeah, I think anyone who says obviously that like politics don't belong in ska or punk, I don't know. I feel like you call those people like fucking posers because it truly punk and ska come from leftist movements and social movements. I mean, the whole origin of it. especially with ska, looking at it, with the second wave and how deeply ingrained in the ideology was the themes of racial unity. Ska has always been political, and so for us, it's something that we really leaned into because I think at the end of the day, it's a way that we can help educate, connect with our audience, help them understand, maybe more about the issues that we care about, and we can help better inform them, through this medium and this platform that we have. And frankly, if anyone pays attention to us, and if anyone maybe hears a song and it challenges them to think a little bit longer about something, whether it's police violence or housing instability or wealth inequality, that it's to me, I think then it's an indicator of success and effectiveness of us using our platform to help drive these things. So yeah, I think music in many ways, especially now, what we're dealing with this rise in fascism in America, like music is to me an act of resistance. And ska and punk as genres have always been deeply embedded in that tradition of resistance, I think.
It's really nice to see more people speaking out, especially now. I went to a show last night to see Violent Society and Scream here in Philly, and the Scream singer spent a lot of time talking on stage about what's happening, and for a while people weren't doing that. So what's your message to the bands that are not speaking out?
I think, yeah, it's just like use your platform. People are afraid to sometimes come out and take positions on things because their fear of like blowback and repercussions and how it might impact their band or their business or career or whatever. And I think we're past that at this point. Like things are dire. I was just reading news about how they're going to open up a private prison that's been closed since 2022 in one of the poorest counties here in Michigan. And the comments on the website, on social media for MLive, our sort of statewide news agency, people are celebrating it. It's like, oh, it's going to bring jobs to the area, and I couldn't help but think that, like, is that how like Germans reacted when Dachau was created? So where they were just celebrating that there were jobs coming to Dachau. Like, it gives me the same vibes right now. But we're in this moment, this unique moment in U.S. history, to where we're seeing a government that is spending resources that could otherwise be spent on actual issues and problems in our country, to essentially enforce just cruelty. It's all about cruelty, and it's I think you're doing a disservice to your audience by not using your platform to engage on these issues and help get people, give them the energy and spirit that they need to resist, because that's really where we're at.
I'm living in Dallas, not you, Danny.
Yeah, he's in Florida, so.
While you're saying that, we were literally passing by the Trump golf course.
Oh, fuck that.
Well, before I said it too, we passed a sign here in Ohio that said Uranus fudge, and everyone got videos. Fudge from Uranus, apparently. So.
Interesting.
I think to something Dally, that's the new Dallas Danny, just portmanteau.
Nice.
Is that I think a lot of what Dallas and Danny write about are issues that are also particularly germane, like relevant to people that we know, to our friends and family. And so if we are traveling, or like playing in Ontario last year, and we're like giving voice to things that are happening here that maybe Canadians don't know are happening in Michigan. And so like I feel like bands that are coming from their particular local context can bring not just like this national political concern, but also localized issues. Like, this is how these policies are impacting people that we specifically know. And so speaking up for the people we care about as, a little reflection of our broader concern for society, I think can be impactful because it humanizes it. It makes it relatable. It's like, look, we're not just ranting about the system. I mean, that's fine too, but we're saying like the system created these specific examples, the Flint water crisis, over policing in Flint, like the songs that are the topics of some of our music. And so for me, as somebody who's always been really emotionally connected to music, whatever music it is that I'm like listening to, that's the kind of music that attracts me the most, is when I feel like like I want to fight somebody, and I'm not a fighter, but like music that makes me want to stand up or do better or, you know, take action in some way.
And I'll add too that, all of us, our backgrounds or professionally, have some connections to policy making, and whether that's, direct or indirect. I'm a former legislative staffer. I'm a former lobbyist for Michigan conservation districts. Both Dick and Dallas are in public health. But maybe they speak to that here in a little bit too. And then Tom is involved in housing policy here locally with the organization he works for. And so I think like it's just natural for us because it is part of our daily lives. Like politics are part of our daily lives, the things that we care about, spend most of our professional energy on. And so it's just because we're a band and writing music, if we don't turn that off, it's very much just part of who we are collectively as individuals.
Who were some of the bands growing up that influenced you to make the music you're making today?
Well, I think for me, if I have to limit it to three, I would probably say Specials, goes without saying. I mean, the Specials truly are I think one of the greatest bands of all time. Rancid, and Out Come the Wolves was probably like Time Bomb was probably the first ska song I ever heard, because my sister, who was 10 years older than me, graduated high school in '95. I was born in '86, and so I remember living through when Rancid broke into the mainstream. So that was definitely one of the biggest influences for me. And then I can't keep this to three, but definitely Suicide Machines. Destruction by Definition is probably one of those desert island albums for me that I can always listen to front to back. And having grown up in Flint, Suicide Machines has come up on a regular basis, or we found in Detroit, only be an hour away from Detroit, and we're very active in that scene growing up. And so and then I was gonna also say Against All Authority. Like I think vocally, Danny Boy I've always found to be just kind of like a good example of how you don't need to sing clearly or like well, quote unquote, for it to still be something that's objectively, engaging and fun. And
but yeah, so I think the bands that he said, that's spot on. But also, I mean, the bands that he's turning from Michigan, obviously Mustard Plug and the Suicide Machines are like the two big bands, and both of them are, quite political. And Suicide Machines much more blatantly, but I mean, Mustard Plug, it's always in there. There's always some, social commentary sort of shit, and continue to be quite vocal. Dave, how do you feel about Donald Trump?
Thumbs down. Big thumbs down on Donald Trump.
Yeah, totally. So there's always that influence on us. I mean, growing up, Steve, with those being our two big local ska bands, it's like it's always been political, but musically, definitely trying to rip off. Like, I mean, we were trying to be like a fucking like I think the Selector or something. But then at a certain point, it's just like, dude, it's hard to manage 8 people. Like, we like fuck it, damn, let's just fucking sing. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like, cause I think like musically, if we had like pretty vocals, we would be like much more considered like a trad band or something. But it's a bunch of fucking bearded punk dudes in a midlife crisis. So even though it's like there's no punk part, we're playing fucking ska, but it's like still gonna be gritty and gruff. So, yeah,
I feel like just my vocals alone, people call us ska punk. Our guest star, Dave Kurtz, guest star.
Hi, Dave.
What do you want to know about the deep down Dallas?
Tell us all of his dirty secrets.
Has Mustard Plug done this podcast yet?
We had Dave on, yes.
It was on, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Last year.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm sorry I got cut off when I was talking about things, but yeah, definitely. Dallas said I think best, like, we were kind of shooting for the Selector, and then it just really kind of evolved into its own thing. And originally, we only had one guitar, and Dallas was playing bass. And then when he went to grad school for his master's, we were decided to keep it going. So that's when we recruited Tom. And when Dallas came back from grad school, it was like, well, you should stay in the band. And so he just picked up guitar because he never really played guitar in a band before. So and then it's just, I think because of that, it's really informed kind of how we've evolved a little bit as a band in terms of having two guitars and the songs that we write. So, but yeah, I'd say, you know, the biggest influences for sure are you know, obviously our closest ska bands here in Michigan. And, you know, then it's funny, since Dallas is from the west side of the state, or like south central Michigan, Battle Creek, you know, that's like the mustard plug side of the state. And since we're on the east side, Suicide Machines are like, you know, that side of the state. So, you know, I like to imagine that there's some weird like street fight or something that goes on, like West Side Story style between the two.
They all skank in the middle, though, is what it is.
A skank fight.
I'd throw into the mix of that the ska band I used to be in was very third wavy. We had 4 horns most of the time, 2 brass and 2 woodwinds, 2 saxes. And so I lived more in a world that was like very small, real divey bar ska shows to 25 people, which, given that there were 4 ska bands, was literally just the bands. So we're very much in a world of just playing gigs for each other, but like horn lines that are real dancey and fun. And so that's like another reason I really like playing with the write-ups. Is the old band was dancey and fun, and the songs were all about the ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends of everybody in the band, because everybody just wrote songs about each other, which was fun. But it's also fun, you know, getting these kind of peppy horn lines that are underlying really like deep lyrics and impactful lyrics. And I can really feel it sometimes. Like I'll hear Danny singing and I'm playing something in the background. And so, I mean, in terms of the influence I bring to it, much more like upbeat, happy, but also kind of that philosophy of like, life sucks, let's dance. I really love that line.
Me too, actually.
I think that the 2 bands that I would throw out there, for early influences anyway, are for ska is Operation Ivy and Citizen Fish. I think those are probably my 2.
Awesome.
And if we haven't mentioned the Clash yet, generally my goal is to rip off the song "Stay Free" by the Clash and just make a band based on ripping off that one song.
And that's a good goal. So
Yeah. Fun fact, I want to say Dave said the Clash when we had him on.
I mean,
I was taking a piss. Yeah, I missed that. Thanks for saying
No,
the Clash,
I mean
Dave.
the last
we had
time
him
they
on.
were on.
Oh,
we had
okay.
him
When
on
you
the
were
episode.
on, okay. Well, that's cool. Well, not my piss break, but yeah, right on.
There you go.
you can't go wrong with Joe Strum, right? Ever.
So you guys recently, was it last year, right? Put out your album?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
early. It was January of last year. Yep.
So speaking of politics and music, I thought maybe we get into a few of your songs that are on that album. So you guys open with Poison Children. For those who may have been living underneath a rock for the last 5 to 8 years, can you explain to folks the inspiration behind that song and what that song was about?
So Poison Children is really, it's kind of told from the perspective of just a generic person in Flint. It really is about the water crisis. And when we wrote the song, we actually kind of had a couple riffs, and it kind of sounded almost like an Against Me song, you know, to some element. And originally, Dallas had written lyrics about it that were more so about the perspective of growing up in Battle Creek with a friend who, you know, just kind of fell into substance abuse and other things, and sort of just like fell apart. And it was a really personal song. And then when Dallas went away to grad school, it was kind of like, well, okay, it feels weird singing this song that's really, really personal. That's about your experience, and we really weren't sure what, you know, the future was if Dallas would stay in the band or what. And so I asked him if he felt okay if I rewrote the lyrics. And so I rewrote the lyrics to you know, Now Poison Children. And you know, when we were first really learning the songs together and working through them, I brought the lyrics to practice and kind of handed the sheet out for everyone to kind of read over it and give any feedback and things. And I think Tom's first reaction was like, yeah, it doesn't pull any punches. So because I think at the end of the day, it's you know, for those who aren't familiar with the water crisis, it was a man-made catastrophe that was you know, a decision that was made by the emergency manager who was appointed by Republican Governor Rick Snyder at the time. And we, as a city, as a community, completely lost essentially our sovereignty. Like we were managed by this emergency manager who would make decisions unilaterally, who wasn't elected, and the water crisis was. And Dick has even tied some of this into his own research too, and I'm sure he can speak to that in terms of the long term, you know, political climate that led to the water crisis. But it ultimately was something that you know, unfortunately, no one was brought to justice for poisoning. One was held criminally liable. I think there were some charges, some minor convictions with misdemeanors for like public misconduct or whatever the charges were that Nick, one of the administrators, was charged with. But so yeah, ultimately the inspiration behind it was just trying to tell the story about you know, from a Flint resident's perspective, to ultimately, you know, this again using our platform, how we can try to hold you know, former Republican politicians accountable for what they did to our community. And because sadly, you know, when people think of Flint, that's the first thing they think of. And you know, I've traveled pretty extensively on tour with bands, you know, all over Europe, Australia. Anytime I travel and I tell people I'm from Flint, that's the first thing they ask. Well, how's the water now? How are things? And to our detriment. And when many of the issues that we experienced as a community came from population loss and lack of a tax base to support our basic infrastructure, you know, telling people that Flint is a terrible place where you can't even drink the water is one of the worst narratives to impact us. So yeah, I think ultimately it to me it just comes down to justice and thinking about, you know, how we never truly had justice in our community, given the level of malfeasance of the Snyder administration. So yeah, fuck Rick Snyder.
Yep. Which I believe is actually a line in the song, correct?
Oh no, so it's Rick Snyder, you're a fucking shame.
Thank you. Yeah.
As well as Rich Baird, who essentially was his advisor, who was overseeing the emergency manager program, which I found out was also a trustee on the board of trustees for the college I went to. So I was I cornered him at a party once. But yeah, anyway, it's yeah, it's ultimately you know, yeah, Rick Snyder's a piece of shit.
Don't give up, don't give in to the games they're playing. Time to change, start today. What is the point of this life we're living? Before you know it, you'll be dying or dead. It's your life, your free time, and your body. Time to fight, don't delay. You're not a worthless commodity. You gotta stand up for your right to be free. I wake up at 5 in the morning. I trudge out to a car that's warming. Drive to a job
And speaking of, and definitely that was the first song on the album, and as you said, did not hold back any punches just to begin the album with. And then you also have Operation Arrowhead. Can you guys tell us a little bit about that song?
So Operation Airhead is named after a program that was started by the Genesee County Sheriff's Department in conjunction, funded by the C.S. Mott Foundation. Back in, I think it was, I want to say 22, there was a series of shootings that occurred in downtown Flint. And their response wasn't proactive policy to help address the issues, the underlying issues that cause crime and violence. Rather, their response was, let's increase police presence downtown in order to help prevent this sort of violence from occurring. And what ended up happening was that the Genesee County sheriff's deputies, who often are predominantly white, don't actually live in the city, live outside in the county, and so aren't even really connected to Flint residents in many ways, just started over policing. So they started like with some violent arrests and instances where they were engaging in police brutality and other things. And so I wanted to use that song as a means to talk about this specific example of what's happening in Flint in the context of policing across the board. I think I'm personally, this is me too, and I'm not speaking for the whole band. Just personally, I tend to be, I think, more critical, and we should be critical and scrutinize the institution of policing. I think there are a number of historic factors, and obviously everything else, coming from the Black Lives Matter movement and following the death of George Floyd. We need serious reform in our policing system as a country, and I think truly, if we want to have better outcomes, we need to invest in housing, we need to invest in public health infrastructure, to invest in the underlying issues that crime comes from. And at the end of the day, that's really what Operation Arrowhead's about. It's there's that line that it like costs millions more than stable public housing, and so to me, I think that's really what inspired that song. Is that locally, yes, even ACAB, even your local police, even your local sheriff's deputies, in your local community, because the institution of policing is broken.
Something I noticed in the album, I think early on when I first listened to the album, I think I commented on one of your social media pages about this, is just the flow of the album seems very much by design, the way the songs are laid out. And I think like when you go from 95 Honda to Proper Pursuits, that is like a perfect like combinations of songs. So as you guys made this album, did you guys take that into account of where you were laying the tracks out and how it flowed together?
Dallas, you want to take that one?
That was 100% me. You're welcome.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Dallas basically set the list and was like, yeah, okay, this so kind of goes from like really minor key, sad, depressing songs into like the major key stuff, and there's definitely that transition. And so I think when we like 95 Honda Prelude is actually a song that we like wrote in the studio. We just kind of jammed on it, and we thought like, yeah, maybe it's a palate cleanser. The last song is a Million Ounce, about a friend drinking themselves to death. So maybe we'd have something to kind of lighten the mood up a little bit as we get into songs that are about like more lighthearted subjects like breakups and quitting your job for the corporation that you hate and stuff.
And then the last song we kind of talk about is Living in the Meantime. So speaking of going from one to the other, what was the inspiration behind that song?
So Dallas really came up with the chorus in terms of the idea that like life is fine, we're all going to die, might as well get living in the meantime. And I think, Dallas, maybe you want to talk about some of your own philosophical views in terms of, I don't know, what would you call yourself, an existential nihilist?
One, absolutely. So originally that was a different song that I was singing the leads on, and then when I'd gone away to Connecticut, Dan had rewritten the verses on it. Originally it was a song basically about how I self-sabotage relationships when I'm roughly 60 to 90 days in, or just book a fucking one-way flight somewhere and just kind of rebuild my life sort of thing. Because none of this shit fucking matters, and we live on a stupid fucking rock. So I'm gonna eat burritos and get laid and watch the Detroit Pistons. It'll be fucking glorious. And just counting down days till we're fucking worm food. So that was kind of the original idea there. And I got to recycle those lyrics. I did like the verses on that, but at a certain point, Dan rewrote the song, but just kind of kept that chorus in and bass shit. He's got a very different approach to it verse-wise, but the chorus fucks, man. Like that's the one where, like, if we're playing and people don't know it, they're still singing along to that shit by the end. And then with the fucking woe, it's just that's got the pop sensibilities, and it's not that like I'm so fucking glorious. It's like, that part fucks. Let's cut the 90% of the shit Dallas did that sucks and keep the fucking bangers. So Dan kept the bangers on it while rewriting it, and then he could take it from here.
I tried to that a little, and honestly, at the time when you wrote it, I think it was probably 2022, maybe. Things are still kind of on the heels of COVID. Not great in the U.S. and I'm the kind of person who has a tendency to literally doom scroll, like wake up and I'm going to read the news and be like, oh shit, well, this is what we're dealing with today. And and I think the last few years it's just been like mentally taxing, and really Living the Meantime is a song that's really ended up being more about the need for remembering that there's only so much that we can do in the face of these existential crises that we're dealing with, and that it is important to stop and enjoy the time with people that you care about, and to reflect on life, because like none of us get out of this alive, and life is short and fleeting, and in any moment catastrophes can happen, and it could be the end of our lives. And so it's important not to get bogged down on the heavy stuff, and to keep moving forward, and remember that, like, that's it. Like, enjoy it while you can. Kind of a classic, get the rosebuds while you may. Carpe diem.
And a lot of that sentiment for me really came from, it was 12 years ago I got sober, and that first winter, like I did a triathlon, I went to yoga school, and just got real occupied. That first winter rolled around, and I just stopped getting out of bed, and I wound up after a couple of failed suicide shit. I was at the psych hospital, inpatient a couple times, and did months outpatient. And in that, I got really into, I was reading the Bhagavad Gita a lot. I was at a yoga studio a lot, really kind of implementing a lot of that Eastern philosophy, Buddhism and Hare Krishna especially. But but also, a lot of the punk rock, I listened to a lot of Iron Sheik or something, it's the same sort of sentiment of like, we're here for a fucking moment, make the most of it sort of situation. Like, I'm a diehard atheist. I'm not taking this shit with me. Like, it's try to get as many cool, like nobody's on their deathbed saying like, my only regret is I wish I acquired more material goods, like it's, do cool fucking shit while we're here, man.
Agreed.
I think music and shows are a big part of that for a lot of our listeners and myself. So it's a reminder to get out to the show and see your favorite bands and just have a good time and spend time with the people you love.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think like that in and of itself in dark times, like we're in right now, and really have been for the last 5 years. Again, it's like that in and of itself is a revolutionary act. I think is sort of celebrating and creating despite the circumstances, or maybe in spite of the circumstances, and survive out of spite.
So you did talk
That'd
about
be a good album name.
Survival out of spite.
Is there a new album in the works?
Yeah, so we've been writing a number of songs, and it's we're all fairly busy guys, and so it's a little bit slower than what we'd hoped. I am very ADHD. I was diagnosed a few years ago, and so I've had to make adjustments in my life to really account for that. Dallas and I were engaged on Blue Sky earlier today, even talking about it. It's like the other day I had an idea for a song, like a tune kind of in my head, and a couple lines for a chorus, and I forced myself to sit down and finish and write the entire song. So I think that's going to be my whole approach now for the rest of this record, is that like the moment I get something, I'm just going to force myself to sit down and do it. I wish I could be like a songwriting machine like some people I know, like Max Stern from Signals Midwest, or that dude has a million songs that he keeps writing, or like Greg Barnett from Benzingers, or Nick Tia from the Swellers. Like those folks just constantly were able to crank out songs. But yeah, so long answer, but yeah, we're working on another record right now, and just kind of slowly writing them, jamming them out. You know, we do hope to get in the studio before the end of the year to get that recorded, and looking for a release probably next year, realistically. So we're excited. I think already with kind of how some of the songs are coming together, they're a little bit more dynamic. There's definitely some interesting guitar parts that we're doing, and that have challenged me a little bit more as a musician too, as a guitarist. And there's some songs where Dallas and I are kind of like reversing roles, where he's playing the rhythm parts, the upstrokes, and I'm singing, and then I'm just doing some leads and some backing vocals, and I like, you know, I think with our writing we try to really make it collaborative as much as possible, and sometimes that can maybe be to our detriment because we get bogged down and just trying to think of how we can all make the song better. But I think there's always we try to make that space as much as possible so people can make it, you know, everyone can put their own touch on it and add something to it, and I think that's what I really love about playing with these guys, that everyone brings something different to the table, and really that make our songs a little more dynamic. And, yeah, so second LP coming, we're working on it, and then we're also we haven't announced it yet, but we've had an idea we're basically working on a number of old union songs. So in the organized labor movement in the early 20th century, you know, songs were very much part of that process. So during marches and other things, you know, music was used as a means to connect and unite people. And you know, I think a lot as a musician in the folk tradition, like thinking about like Woody Guthrie and the Pete Seeger, and specifically Pete Seeger and the Almanac Singers. So there's a heavy tradition of organized labor in Flint, and the Flint sit-down strike in 1937. You know, we're the Kickstarter for the entire, you know, United Auto Worker movement, following the 30-some days to where the plant was occupied. They shut down all of General Motors production. So we're working on, it's either going to be an EP or something else, maybe some individual singles, but I'm working on some of those too, sort of transcribing old union tunes into ska songs.
Well, we look forward to that. You talked about how busy you all are. What goes into getting you guys to play a show, and have you been able to venture out of Michigan?
So I think this is one of the reasons I love Dallas in our band, because he often takes the reins for booking. Because I honestly hate booking. Like I used to promote for years, and I hate the back and forth of it. I hate emailing. I hate the turn-based combat that occurs in that process. So really it's a matter of Dallas taking the initiative. He's been great in doing that, and reaching out to friends that we have in other parts of the country as well as Canada, and then so yeah, maybe Dallas, you can speak a little bit more to sort of what it takes to get us out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been throwing, you know, DIY shows way the fuck back in the day for a long time. And, you know, I've been on tour periodically for the last 20 years with a lot of bands in the same general scene. So it's you know, Dan describes it as a warp tube, you know, like in Mario. Like we didn't have to start like playing fucking 10 people in a shitty basement. Like something like our third show was at Bell's Mustard Plug. Like it was fucking rad, you know. But it's also a situation where it'll get a foot in the door, but you got to not suck in order to get people to keep turning. You know, you're only going to come to be like get the foot in the door, but you still have to kind of maintain shit. So that's been cool. Like we did Canada, the Booza Fest last year with K-Man on the 45 and Dip Ruptures. That was awesome, but like, you know, I've worked with the Top Records guys for years, and that helped immensely with that. A lot of the Midwest stuff too. I mean, I know people, places, and it helps immensely, but it's nice to get kind of invited back, and we start seeing people that we don't know that are, you know, it's not that hard to get we haven't played, none of us played bands forever. Getting our aunt to show up, or our cousin, that's not that fucking hard, but getting like people that I didn't know a year ago that are singing along to the verses that we wrote, pretty fucking cool. But yeah, so we played. I never got far. We were out to Chicago, done a bunch of Michigan stuff, doing Ontario and Quebec. And I don't. At some point, I think you're probably asking if we got shit coming up later. So I will talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah. And I'll say too, you know, when we played Pooza last year, you know, it was our first time playing Pooza Fest, and you know, we know the organizers who organize it, as well as the Stomp Records folks, and we've known them for a long time, and so certainly, you know, knowing folks helps. But I would say, yeah, if it hadn't been the work that Dallas and I have done over the last 20 years, you know, whether it's working for bands like this, you know, or promoting shows, you know, we certainly wouldn't have been able to play, you know, Foof's Cabaret right before Laura Jane Grace went on in the next stage over in the next room, like on Sunday as like one of the primetime slots. So that was a pretty cool moment, and I think you know, and I have described it as sort of a secret warp tube, and that, you know, all you have to do is promote shows and work for bands for 20 years, and then you know, makes it starting a band a lot easier and touring with your band a lot easier.
What about getting the 5 of you together to even play a show? Has that been a challenge with what's going on otherwise with your jobs and that kind of thing?
Sometimes. So, you know, Dick is a full-time professor at one of our local institutions. I don't know if you feel fine
I saw
saying
that. I
what it
saw
is,
he has
Dick,
a
or not, but
PhD even, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so I work for Michigan State University, and I've been there 10 years now. And so I have a little bit of flexibility. I'm a research heavy faculty, so I don't teach courses, and I can take my work on the road and literally be on a call in the van, or I've taken to asking my colleagues if they'd have me give talks at their schools when we give shows or when we play shows. So I do a little double duty just for the fun of it. Not like a necessary, but so for me, it's actually kind of, it's easier in some ways than I don't know, I have that flexibility, and I can just get in the van, and I think that's what I need, Danny. I need like really good noise canceling headphones so I can just be in my own universe, and then just like let you guys take me wherever. Don't even tell me where we're going. I'll just
give him an iPad, maybe a juice box or two. He'll be
That's
set.
what I need. Yeah, I need that. Yeah.
Where do you guys
So-
want to play? Like, what's the future looking like for you?
Let's
Well-
go to Europe.
Europe is
And not
definitely
come
on the
back?
short list.
That would be fun. Yeah.
Europe.
Europe would be rad. Dallas and I are going in again this year with Make War. We were over there last year. And honestly, anytime I do merch, I've got a stack of cards for the write-ups with the QR code on it so folks can check us out. And I always give one. I give it to every single person that buys merch. And weirdly enough, like it actually works as a system, you know, because then I look back on like Spotify and other things and other data, and like sure enough, I see people from the cities are listening to the band and checking us out. So we've sort of planted a lot of seeds all over, you know, all over the US and Europe. And we do have some pretty cool upcoming stuff here in May and June, which Dallas, you might want to touch on. I don't know what we can share and announce.
We can share everything. It's fucking fine, dude. Nobody gives a fuck. So I guess right before you were asking about like us practicing, it's easy. Like, so Dan, Dick, Tom, and Ryan all like live biking distance from each other. Like Tom's even got a rig on his, so he put his face on his bike, which is fucking sick. Biking over to practice. I used to live in Flint. I live in Detroit now. It's not too terribly far away, so I can make it up an hour. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, as far as schedule, like, yeah, Dick's been able to work from the road. It's been fucking awesome. I mean, Dan's between shit right now. Tom's got a big boy job that's a bit trickier, but he's in charge of a lot of shit though, so you can fuck off for a week or whatever, which is cool. And so really, with me, it's based on a school schedule. So a lot of time we've been doing stuff during like spring break or summer break or fall break sort of thing, or just a little longer weekenders, which is a good move anyways. I would say, like, I don't need to play Des Moines on a fucking Tuesday. Like, it's gonna suck. So we've been trying, you know, it's about quality over quantity for shows with the band. Speaking of that, some of the stuff that we got coming up would be, so in May we're out with the Filthy Radicals, who are a pretty sick band from Toronto, like a punk ska band, very kind of ranty sort of thing. Stomp Records. So we're doing Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Sarnia, and Windsor. So two like on the border of Michigan, which would be sick. And then we're going out to Chicago and Milwaukee. So stuff. I'm doing 4 Michigan days, Battle Creek, Grand Rapids, Flint, and Royal Oak for another matinee show. So it'll be an 11-day run, longest we've done in this band. I'm pretty stoked on that. And that's but like 3 days before that, so then we're playing punk rock bowling in Vegas. Gonna hit a few other things. You know, I don't think, at least I'm not a gambling guy or a prostitutes guy or a fucking debauchery guy. Like, I'm gonna go hiking and then hit the gym and like eat vegetables and shit. And then I'll go watch bands at night. Real stoked on that. I know Mrs. Dr. Dick is showing up, and where are you guys going?
Yeah, she used to work at the Grand Canyon, so we're gonna roll back out there for a couple of days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm excited because I kind of view punk rock bowling as like the fest for the West Coast. So where a lot of the folks that live out there don't go east to the fest. And so it's sort of like their equivalent. And so I'm really hopeful that it might lead to some future tour on the West Coast, because I just did a run with Mustard Plug as doing merch back in January with Voodoo Glow Skulls and Half Past Two, and it's just awesome. The West Coast is great. So when we have a Pacific Confederacy of states in the U.S., I could definitely see myself ending up out there. If we don't have a Midwest country.
And I'm excited. This will be my first time going to punk rock bowling, so I will get to see you guys there.
Hell yeah, dude! Looking forward to it. We'll get some good hangs in.
The one thing I didn't hear was anything about the East Coast, so we got to get you out here eventually.
We would love to. Actually, we were just talking the other day too that if we play Pooza again, it'd be rad to like take the rather than going through Ontario, do like the Rust Belt route and go like Cleveland, Pittsburgh, maybe upstate New York, maybe do some dates over on the East Coast to head out that way. But Dallas used to live out in Connecticut, and we've got a lot of friends all over. I've toured out there on the East Coast too. Some bands I used to work for in the past, and so we'd certainly love to get out there. Philly's awesome. We love Philly, and would certainly love to come play Philly at some point.
Yeah, please do. There's also tons of sick festivals that happen on the East Coast, so make sure you submit for them.
Yeah, honestly, I'd love to get in on This Is Not Croydon Fest at some point.
That's my favorite. It's coming up
I've heard
fast.
Eric, was it you that was telling me, or maybe it was it was Joel Tacey from Michigan Ska who was talking about This Is Not Croydon and how it's basically just like the energy of Supernova, but just in a club show.
Exactly.
Over
500 people.
Incredible.
It's one of my favorite shows every year.
I've done a couple times out for that at a school. It's in a brewery. The guy that owns the brewery, he was in a band called Giving Chase, I believe, who are like a pretty rad kind of like skate punky melodic hardcore band. I bet there was much plug. It's always sick, very diverse. But yeah, it's a small little room and it's fucking cool. That would be the dream. Yeah, Dick's rocking the Supernova shirt, and Dr. Dick we're not playing Supernova, but Dr. Dick is.
Oh, who are you playing with?
I'm just gonna moonlight with some of our friends in the Abrupters.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
We're having them on soon too.
Nice.
And they are actually playing Croydon Fest as well.
They are great people. We love the Abrupters and came in on the 45s after we toured with them last year. They're like our favorite people, and we just can't wait to see them all again.
Some of us are going down to Cleveland to see them play with the Slackers next month. It's gonna be
is that Slackfest?
Yeah, Slackfest.
Yeah, at the Grog Shop.
Also
Cool.
a great venue, great spot.
Well, speaking of touring, we like to do a segment called Skenanigans. And Dave has done this before. We look for your wildest tour stories. They can be funny, they can be traumatic, it can be a horror fan story, anything you want to share. But what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of being on the road? And each of you can go.
It's a hard one. I think, well, for me, so I used to work for a band called The Swellers. They're like a kind of a skate punk, fat punk, melodic stuff. And I did a tour with them once that was a full 30-day US tour, basically the whole rink from the East Coast to the West. And we had a day off in LA, and they like connected with the wrestler CM Punk over Twitter. He was like a big fan of the Swellers, and he basically comped us some tickets so we could go see a taping of Monday Night Raw down in San Diego. So we drove down there, and then as we get to the box office and stuff to get the tickets, we're just thinking we're gonna have nosebleeds, whatever, just guest listed, and then we realized like, oh shit, no, these are good tickets, and he literally gave us like ringside tickets. And I honestly like do not give a shit about wrestling. I think it's like like it's like a soap opera for men, for less like people who like narratives to their sports. And so I think that's fun. I get why people like it, but so we went to the match and stuff, and that was great. And, met CM Punk, and then so we drove back to LA that night, and then kind of crashed out early, and then the next day. We wake up to our bud that we were staying with, Pat, who plays in the band Versus the World. He one of his friends is the tour manager for Madonna, who had just toured with Rihanna, and he was like, dude, Rihanna was gonna have she had a birthday party. I guess it was a really small thing, and like I was gonna go to it and whatnot, and it's gonna wake you guys up to see if you wanted to go. But we're like, wait, what? Like we could have gone to Rihanna's birthday party, and you didn't wake us up for that. Like what? So maybe my story is the antithesis of a wild story. It's more of a like, God damn it, what
could have been?
I don't know. Dallas probably has better stories. He's been touring the most out of all of us, I believe. But hard to choose one, right? How do you choose?
I think there's one thing that I hadn't thought of in a really long time that I just talked to Danny about, but I used to play in a band out of Gainesville called John Denver's Airplane, and we were playing with Leftover Crack in Tompkins Square Park in New York, and it was like started to rain right when we started playing, and there was something wrong with the grounding on my amp. So every time I touch the strings, I got shocked. So I was like 25, 30 minutes of just getting shocked and powering through it. We did, but it was a very crazy show. But the other ones, every time we went through New York, we would play one show there and one show at C Squat. And the C Squat shows were always the absolute craziest shows.
I'm kind of surprised you still play bass and don't have like a Pavlovian response to where you just avoid the instrument altogether.
All right. Dallas is pointing.
I like to point out.
Yeah. So the old band I played in was mostly like these little dinky local shows around Michigan. We played with Mustard Plug a couple of times, but the only time we left the state was to play the National Boy Scout Venturing Fest in West Virginia, because our singer, he's a professional scouter now. He works at Philmont. And so we played a set of lots of inappropriate music for, 16, inappropriate. I thought it was appropriate. Maybe the scouts didn't. So we self-censored a lot of it for 1,000 venturing scouts at a large camp. And there was just like conga lines and crowd surfing. It was.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was the biggest show we ever played, and just like ridiculous. Like, what is this? Half the people didn't know what ska was, but they were just loving it.
Yes, the coveted Eagle Scouts demographic. That
I mean, most of my old ska band worked at scout camps, so that was our vibe.
What was your public project?
My Eagle Scout project? Yeah.
No, that's probably a long tangent.
Building a nature trail. That's the short version.
Ooh.
And I mean, I've been on tour again a lot, but it's usually with other people's bands. With my own band, I don't know. I mean, it has been quite some time during that. Nothing like, honestly, any of that before July 5th, 2013, I don't really remember, especially on tour. Like, I was just going to be fucking absolutely annihilated. But one funny thing that kind of sticks out the last year, I was at the Mustard Plug in Europe. We were playing this boat in the Seine River in France with the Descendants and the Dwarves and Brandon. Descendants, Dwarves, Belvedere, Strung Out. Yeah, Strung Out was on that. But like, so like, I go park the Sprinter, and I'm walking back, and I'm like, oh, the Olympics are happening right here. It's like, so just like the Paris Olympics, like the gymnastics competition is going on. Like, you could throw a rock at the fucking Descendants show on a boat in France from like where Simone Biles like fucking tearing up, winning gold and shit. I'm like, I'm just playing budget. Not a lot of people driving around right now. Full on Olympic mode. You know, it's just the weird one that comes to mind. A lot of shit like that. But these are all the babysitting other people's fans. But in mind, just like I played some chill and I got blackout drunk and I puked on stuff and I made out with a chick and she hates me now. You know, not that exciting.
Yeah, I want to amend mine a little bit too. Last year when we were in Europe, the tour ended in Toulouse, France. Nick Ward played the same stage with Descendants, so we all basically got to spend the end of the tour, you know, watching Descendants side stage. And that was definitely one of those moments. It's like, yeah, that's pretty all right. It's pretty cool.
Oh, Dan, you're Slovenian elf. You gotta go with the Slovenian elf.
Slovenian Alp, that was cool too. I ended up one of the bands that we met that we stayed with in Manchester, UK. They played Punk Rock Holiday in Slovenia, which is sort of like the fest in Europe, I would say. It's where like all the Europeans go. And Mustard Plug played last year, and I basically hitched a ride with the butts from Manchester from Munich, and then bought like a hammock and a tarp from like the equivalent of like a German Home Depot, and basically just like made a really rudimentary backpacking kind of campsite. And then because Mustard Plug played, I was able to get my artist wristband, and you know, almost gotten in some fights with some stagehands. So, you know, which is not, I am not like a guy that drinks a lot and gets like uncontrollable. I'm not like a sloppy drunk or anything. Like I'll have a couple beers to kind of loosen up and hang out. Like I don't really like rage it, but I think I raged it at Punk Rock Holiday, and definitely had some stagehands angry with me. But you know, I apologized profusely and ate a lot of shit. I was like, yeah, sorry guys. Like you know, I had a little few too many, and you know, I guess the hospitality. What I'm saying is the hospitality was very good at Punk Rock Holiday for artists, and you know, I may have taken advantage of that a little too hard. So.
And Comeback Kid brings out the violent side of him.
Comeback Kid makes me want to like definitely get rowdy. I feel like so. And when you're like watching Comeback Kid side stage with like 6,000 people watching them too, it just you know, it gets to you. So like obviously we mentioned hardcore a little bit. Dallas is probably the biggest fan of hardcore in the band. I'm probably the second biggest hardcore band, but Comeback Kid's definitely like up there in terms of favorite hardcore bands. It's just the energy they have live. It's just it's insane. It's hard not to get rowdy.
Agreed. One more question for you before Eric moves on. You're on the road a lot. You probably get exposed to a lot of newer bands that people don't know about. So I want to ask each of you to share one band that you think people should be listening to right now. It doesn't have to be ska. It could be hardcore if you want. Anyone.
Okay, I'll start. Captain Asshole from Munich is absolutely phenomenal. It's like like those fest bands you hear described as, it sounds like bearded dudes hugging, and it just totally fucking is. Like it's just very like an Iron Cheek sort of, you know, that sort of feel to it, hot water music sort of shit. And I love that band. And they're hardcore as fuck, and they're playing Food the Fest this year. I'm real stoked to see them out there in Canada.
Awesome.
I'm gonna say I feel like they're not like lesser known now, but they're very dear friends and I love them, and I think they're a fantastic band. New Junk City from Atlanta.
Oh yes.
So the lead singer John Bernakis and I both went to Albion College here in Michigan, and we're very, very good friends. We lived together when we lived down in Austin, Texas for a little bit. You know, I just absolutely adore John, and it's great to see them blowing up, and they just like playing some just hot water music in Florida, and like Streetlight. They played Manchester Punk Festival last year. UK, and they've just been killing it, and I'm super proud of them, and I love every single one of those guys. So New Junk City's mine.
They're great. I'm in a few record vinyl collector groups, and people are talking about them right now big time.
Good. They deserve it. John is just been another one of those people that like write songs like a machine. He's just you know, he really focused on like Americana for a long time as a singer-songwriter, and that's, you know, in college and post-college what he was really focusing on. And I always just told him, like, dude, you need a full band behind you too. Like I think it would just take it to another level. And when you move back to Atlanta, you know, I think I he meant Dakota because the Wild for those who don't know, the Wild is a folk punk band on Asian Man Records that Dakota was in, and they have like an all ages space that they used to operate to there that called Wonder Root that Dakota was heavily involved in, and so they ended up linking up, and it's just like a match made in heaven. New York City is just tight. Just super excited for them and everything's happening.
Rodeo boys are out there killing it right now. Rodeo boys are great.
Definitely.
Our friends Cult Therapy from Flint just put out a new record. I'm waiting until they have the record release show here to actually pick it up, but oh man, I know it's gonna be so good. And another local band, the Cold Joys, they're getting ready to record an LP. That's gonna be absolute fire. So but Rodeo Boys, man, they're coming around with Catbite pretty soon.
Yeah.
They play really diverse shows, and if you haven't seen them, their stage presence is just so good.
I don't think they're playing our Catbite show. They're playing out there in Michigan, though, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to throw a slightly different flavor your way, some klezmer. So I saw a band called Communa Lux from Ukraine. They actually came through Flint through a really cool program we have at one of our bookstores. I'm a sucker for horns, and they were just sick. And yeah, just in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. Communa Lux means a community of light.
Also, I want to add, because Tom mentioned the band Cult Therapy, and they're really good friends of ours. And Jason, the lead singer, that like basically wrote this whole record about his religious trauma. He grew up in this like extremist Baptist church life, and so basically a lot of the content is just sort of about being recovering Christians as atheists now, and like sort of that trauma that they went under. And Jason often like attributes starting that band to Dallas and me, because we used to meet up in one of the local parks in Flint to play street hockey, and Dick too. Dick would play with us as well, but I don't think we had the write-ups active at that point, I remember. But so Cult Therapy is definitely one of the ones that like try to just tell people about Flint bands. They're fantastic and we're checking out.
Well, we'll check them out. We hope that our listeners do as well.
So where can our listeners hear you guys at? Where or learn about you guys? Here's your plug, Ted.
So all of our music is streamable wherever you stream music. So we're on Spotify and Apple Music and probably Amazon and all the other platforms. We go through a lot of the usual distributors. But we also have the Bandcamp account where you can check everything out. It's writeups.bandcamp.com. If you follow us on Instagram or any of the other platforms, it's at the Write-Ups Band. So you can find us that way. And we've got all the links. You can figure it out kind of through there.
Chairman.
Thanks for having us.
Chairman, what do you have?
That's awesome.
Chairman's the biggest hardcore fan of us all.
He really is.
Does
he
he's really chill.
Sherman, do you want to go? Do you want to go see hardcore? Sherman?
Sherman, do you want to open this bit up?
He's terrified of trombones, ironically.
He hates when I practice.
He's a little skittish.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming on. I want to remind everyone they're listening to Ska Talk with Skagazine. We can also be found on Instagram. All of our links are on our bio, but we publish this podcast on Spotify and YouTube. We're also over on Blue Sky. We are not on Twitter, never have been, or X, whatever the fuck it's called. That's it. Follow us, listen to the interviews. We spend our time doing these, and we want you to discover new bands and give them a chance. So, always fun. And be the scene. Show up for shows, buy merch, have a good time, and live life, because that's all we got right now. Just getting together with our friends and doing the thing.
Get living in the meantime.
Exactly.
Nice.
I like what you did there. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
get up later than I know I should. I smoke up all the help me feel numb. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Might as well get living in the meantime. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Might as well get living in the meantime. Carbon parts per million climbing, and we're past the point of no return. Why does it feel like I'm already dying? The towel I'm throwing in feels so powerless and docile in this capitalist hell we're in. Oceans rising and glaciers melting up next is total mass extinction. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Might as well get living in the meantime. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Life is fine, we're all gonna die. Might as well get living in the meantime. Another crisis, supply chains crumbling, no solutions, we're fumbling. No food for infants, just global pandemics and the end of democracy. Fascist